Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Before this video starts, I just want to say something to you guys real quick. Happy New Year's, everybody! Happy New Year's. In honor of New Year, I thought I'd go over some of I thought I'd go over a ranking of what I thought the best and worst movies were for 2024. This was the first year I actively started actively going back to the movies, as I held that off for a little bit after the pandemic. But yeah. So we're gonna split this into 3 categories. So that would be live action, animation, and Marvel. We'll do honorable mentions. Those are going to be movies that were on streaming services. And we'll then do a final ranking of the top 1 that I have for each category. The main reason Marvel is its own category this time, it's because this year I actually saw all 4 Marvel movies that were released in the theaters. So yeah, let's get started with live action. Now, starting off with live action, in last place is Terrifier 3. Not a bad movie in general, but it's completely useless for me in the future because usually I don't watch movies that often. When I usually watch movies that often, I don't go with horror movies usually automatically. I usually only watch horror movies around the fall. And I can't do a kill count for these for Terrifier 3 for videos is because the video will get demonetized or age restricted because of how graphic the content is. So yeah, just a completely useless movie to me in the future for videos, but not a bad movie in general. In second to last place is Imaginary. Not bad, but Blumhouse's horror movies just don't go well, guys. I personally didn't like this. I felt it was slow a little bit. But and it was called, and even though it's classified as a horror movie by Blumhouse, this is more of a thriller than a horror movie because there weren't many kills in it, and that's usually not one factor that should bring down a movie. But it's not like that. But just the contents of it, it's not gonna get you scared. Usually the kills will get you scared, but not this. So yeah, but yeah, not a bad movie in general. Definitely. So yeah, Imaginary was good, but not like bad. Next place is Beetlejuice 2. It's an alright sequel, guys. Just that I personally didn't find it good, mainly because nothing can take place from the original Beetlejuice that it did. Not to mention that it had a little bit of filler in it, but not to also mention some of the scandals that happened with some of the actors. Definitely brought down the plot, which isn't a bad thing. Like, I get it. You don't want to do a movie with him because it won't make you money. But as my grandpa stated, he said that Tim Burton should have made a sequel to Beetlejuice 2 a lot quicker before what happened with some of the actors. But yeah, it had a few more kills than the original, which can kind of bring it up, because with a kill count, you don't want to do like a short kill count, especially if it's only like one scene with 2 kills in it, which is what the original one is. But this one was very good, but it's not like the next Da Vinci Code or Titanic. Up next is Red One. Great plot, but tanked down a little bit due to The Rock, because it had to make, not only does a movie have to make back its budget, they had to make an extra $25 million to pay The Rock. So for that, it had to make $500 million to break even but with the opening weekend of $83 million, didn't do it. But yeah, it was a good movie, just kind of tanked because of several things that happened with it. Borderlands, it was a great plot, beautiful set designs. I love Jack Black as Claptrap. I do know that with people who were a fan of the video games didn't like this, mainly because if for a video game movie you have to be loyal to it, and when you have a character who's a 8 feet tall, big burly man, you can't cast someone like Kevin Hart because he isn't a big burly buff man. But yeah, it was a great movie. And now going into the top 3 for live action, Number 3 was Monkey Man. Going into the movie, I wasn't interested in it, mainly because I didn't find the trailer good. But when I left the theater, I was very interested. I love how everyone was an asshole to this man in the beginning, but yet they all came to regret that because he ended up axing them. But yeah, I also liked how the man who took advantage of his mom, killed his mom, got what he deserved, and going off of also how he begged for mercy, which he knew he wasn't going to get. Watching Doom Blazer's movie review for his top movies of 2024, shout out to you, Doom Blazer. He basically called this like an Indian John Wick, which I definitely saw as an Indian John Wick. I can't put that any better. For the silver, I'm going with Wicked. Great adaptation of the Broadway show and the novel by Gregory Maguire. The songs were great, especially for someone who hasn't seen the Broadway show. Seeing the visuals of the song was really great. Of the songs were really great, as well as I had listened to the Broadway track. Great song. One thing I did forget to mention in my movie review I did back in November for this was a part 1 to it. So, yeah, kind of didn't get it. So when I go back in November to watch Wicked Part 2, I just don't want you guys to be confused, so I'm just saying that here. But yeah, it was a really good way to bring the Broadway show to everyone, so everyone can see it, because with a Broadway show, due to the unrepeatability of them, it's a great way for everyone to see it. And at number 1, I have The Beekeeper, because this was a good movie. It had great action, great plot, great actors, great characters, and just a great movie in general. Now, moving on to animation. For animation, in last place, I have the Garfield movie. Now, this movie wasn't like unwatchable. It's just that with the other movies I have on here, it's this is as high as it can get. I love the cast. I love the backstory of Garfield. I love how we got to know some more characters and got to see like a deeper meaning. The animation was great. I loved the action in this. The only issue I had was Chris Pratt casted as Garfield, because he wasn't doing an impression of Garfield. Because, like, I understand you want a big name celebrity, but at least get someone who can do an impression of Garfield. Because when Fox did the original Garfield movie back in 2004, and they got Bill Murray could do an impression of Garfield. Chris Pratt isn't even trying in here, but Chris Pratt is not a bad actor. But yeah, this movie was good, but it's not like number 1 good, but it was still good. Definitely check it out if you want to watch it. Next up is Inside Out 2. At first, I wasn't going to even go see this movie, mainly because I'm not a huge fan. Not saying I'm not a huge fan, but I just didn't want to go see it because I felt the original one was way better. But after leaving the theater, I loved it. I love the new emotions that we got to see. I love the new characters we got to see. And yeah, I just loved everything about the new people. This was a really good movie, and it showed, because it's the number 1 highest grossing movie of 2024. In 4th place, I have Piece by Piece. Piece by Piece was a good movie, but with the other 3, this is as high as it can get, and this pains me to do it. But yeah, as someone who isn't a fan of like based on true event movies or biography/documentary movies, I didn't think I was going to be interested in this one, but when I watched it, this was a really, really good movie, because with this, it doesn't feel like a documentary, like a biography documentary or a based on true event movie, because it's shot in a way that is unique. It's shot like it's Legos, and with this for being the first Lego movie we got since the Lego Movie since the Lego Movie 2, this is a really good way to bring back Lego movies. Perfect. Now moving on to the top 3. For the bronze, I have Sonic 3. As someone who is a fan of the Sonic video games as well as the first 2 Sonic movies, I was already going to love it. The action in this was just top tier. I loved how this took place in Japan rather than like a U.S. city. I also liked how we got to travel around the world. We got to go to the UK. We got to go to Japan. We got to go to New York Forest. A forest. I don't know where that was located. Um, I loved Keanu Reeves as Shadow because he has that like seriousness in his voice that he can bring to a real serious character, which contrasts well with Idris Elba, Ben Schwartz, and then I forget the woman who did Shadow. I also did like how we got Jim Carrey to do not only two Robotniks, but I also liked how they were able to convince him to come out of retirement. Because there have been times before that like movies that Jim Carrey's declined to do sequels for, they replaced him. Those movies don't go well. But yeah, it was a really, really good movie. 10 out of 10. Well, like 10 out of 10. There weren't like really any major problems, but this is as high as it can get. Number 2 is for the silver. I have Transformers 1. When I went into this, I didn't think I was gonna like it, but this was a really good movie because I loved the action in it. I loved how we got to see the origins of the Transformers. I also loved Chris Hemsworth as the new Optimus Prime, which set the stage for a supposed sequel trilogy for this. Yeah, this was really good. And at number 1, I have The Wild Robot, because as a fan of the original book by Peter Brown, this one, I was gonna like it from the beginning, and this really did show because this was a beautiful animation, and it was accurate to the book, and it had a perfect casting. So yeah, now moving on to Marvel. So now moving on to Marvel, for last place I have Madame Web. This movie was slow. This dragged on for about a majority of the film. The main actress for Madame Web, I didn't even know who she was, and judging by the lack of movies she's done, this really did show. And this is what I felt like was the final nail in the coffin for the Sony Villainverse. At number 3, for the bronze, I have Kraven the Hunter. While this one was the final, this one is actually really good. And honestly, it was a great send-off for the Sony Villainverse, it had great action in it. I loved the plot of it because it kind of showed how he is, and with this is that unlike the other ones where they're villains, this one it showed more as an anti-hero because in this one there's not like one sense of him killing for necessarily like bad intentions. Sometimes it's self-defense, sometimes it's good, but it's not like killing for bad. I loved Aaron Taylor Johnson as Kraven the Hunter, and overall this was a great way for Sony to end off the Villainverse. And for the silver, I have Venom: The Last Dance because this one was a great way to send off the Venom trilogy. I loved the first Venom movie, and I was hoping this one was a major improvement from Let There Be Carnage, and it was great because because it had a great plot, great action. This also I loved the ending of this, and this one also, instead of taking place in one place, where it's kind of like a travel movie because some scenes were in Mexico, some scenes were in Vegas, some scenes were in Arizona. Yeah, it was great. Great way to end off the Venom trilogy. The ending was really good, bittersweet. Definitely a great way to end it off. And then for the gold, I have Deadpool and Wolverine. I mean, Deadpool versus Wolverine. Or Deadpool and Wolverine. Me and my grandpa call it Deadpool versus Wolverine. I love the first 2 Deadpool movies, so this one I was expecting to enjoy it, and I did, because I love the cameos in it. The top tier comedy was some of the funniest comedy I've seen in like 6 years of comedy movies I've seen since then. I loved seeing Hugh Jackman again. I'm pretty sure everyone was. I loved Cassandra Nova as the villain, and overall it was a great superhero movie, especially for being the only Disney Marvel movie that they released this year. Really good. Now moving on to honorable mentions. For my honorable mention, I have one that is Dear Santa. It was a great. This movie was good. It was a great Christmas movie. I love the comedy in this. I also love Jack Black. Every scene he's in, he just shines throughout. The only main reason this one's an honorable mention is because this was a straight to streaming movie, and a rule I have for these is that they have to be in theaters, or movies that I've seen on TV that were in theaters, or I've seen them in theaters. But because this one was a straight to streaming, it's an honorable mention, but it was a really good movie. If you want a Christmas movie to laugh at, this one is for you. This is honestly like a modern take on Love Actually. If they took out the romance from it and just made it straight comedy and added Jack Black to it, perfect. Now for final ranking, for the bronze, I have The Beekeeper. This one was a great action movie, but it wasn't like the best movie of the year, but it was definitely up there with some of them. If this movie was in theaters again, I definitely would go see it again in theaters if I could. For the silver, I have The Wild Robot. This one was honestly one of the best animated movies of the year, and everyone seems to agree with me on this, because this one, well, this was pretty accurate to Peter Brown's book. This was also great movie because it's more than just like a robot in nature. It has a love connection between a robot and a duck. Her raising the duck, her not wanting to leave when they try to send her back. Just great, and especially for being one of only 2 animated movies that DreamWorks released this year. DreamWorks was definitely pumping all their money into this, as well as putting their best animators on this one. But arguably, the best movie of 2024 is Deadpool and Wolverine. There is nothing about it. It's Deadpool and Wolverine. Mainly because not only this is the best movie of the year, this was one of the best MCU movies of this year. This was the only movie of the MCU that we got this year, because all the other ones were not part of the MCU. This one was definitely, and this showed, because it's the highest grossing Deadpool movie, grossing over $1.33 billion. It's the 3rd highest grossing MCU movie behind Endgame and Spider-Man No Way Home. This is also the 4th highest grossing Marvel movie of all of them, right behind Endgame, Infinity War, and Spider-Man No Way Home. And that's going to do it for this video, guys. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, turn on notifications so any of my future videos will avail so much, and bye.